Tim, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I always like to go back to the start when I talk to somebody. Can you remember the first movie, TV show, book, something like that that scared you growing up?
Oh, probably The Omen. If you remember the '70s
Uh-oh,
movie, The Omen,
we've lost
yeah,
audio.
and yeah, scary movie with the kid Damien, having to to be the Antichrist coming, and the score by Jerry Goldsmith, and it was just something that I remember just kind of scaring the life out of me.
I don't know if you can hear me, Tim.
I can hear you now. Looked like you were muted for a second.
Okay, I have lost all audio, so I don't know if you can hear me right now, Tim. I'm trying to
Yeah, I can
figure
hear
out.
you. Sure.
I,
Now you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Unmuted. Yeah.
Weird. As soon as I hit record, everything just went. I couldn't hear your voice. I couldn't hear my own voice.
Oh no.
Okay, everything seems to be working again. I've literally never had that happen before.
No. It's the
Okay,
first time for everything, right?
that's just like, you know what? You know what's happened to me? Every time I've upgraded a piece of equipment, there's like another
Oh yeah,
issue.
it takes a few weeks to get everything. Believe me, it when you're in the middle of a project, like Final Destination, it's like, all right, nothing gets upgraded until we get finished, and then when you get finished with it, you've just got to just upgrade everything all at the same time. So
Yeah, I feel like I had less issues when I had like $100 microphone, and that was it. I'll be honest. Okay,
no,
right,
you know what? Sometimes when you upgrade it, you're downgrading. So
kind of. I never had issues when I had that.
yeah,
Okay. Right, let's just try reset that then.
yeah, no problem.
So, Tim, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. I always like to go back to the start with guests when I'm talking to somebody. Can you remember first movie, TV show, or just something in general that scared you growing up?
You know what? The movie that I just thought about was Jaws, that scared the living daylights out of me. I live near the ocean. I go in the ocean a lot, so uh, yeah, Jaws was pretty much the first one that scared the living daylights out of me. Would be the one I'd choose.
That just had its 50th anniversary, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is a pretty big one.
Yeah, pretty big one. I think people used to. I think my sister used to sing the score to me, and then I got scared, and I didn't want to go on the carpet because I thought the carpet was the ocean, and so yeah, I mean, I'm still traumatized by it. I go swimming in a pool, and I think that a shark is going to get me, and I hear the Jaws team, coming, and
That was definitely one of those movies that I felt like that about for a long time, but somehow I don't know if it's like the sadistic part of the brain or whatever, but it made me more intrigued to see things like that.
So you're big on Shark Week on the Discovery Network.
Yeah, kind of, even though they terrify me.
Yeah, it's good to know.
What was it about what you do now that first, I guess, attracted you to that aspect of the business? Was there a pivotal point that you could look back to and say, you know, that's the moment I decided this is something I would love to do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was a pivotal moment, but it was a slow transformation. I always knew I wanted to do something in music. From age 5, 6 on, I always was drawn to writing music, creating little songs and what have you. And then in high school, um, you know, doing rock bands and all that sort of stuff, and writing more songs. And then I kind of got exposed to. I always knew about film scores, of course, watching movies, but I never thought about as as a career until I started looking into the background of composers that have done that, of John Williams and other Jerry Goldsmith, and you can name them all. And then I kind of went back to, well, what were they listening to when they were coming up? And so I was exposed to Gustav Holst's The Planets. I don't know if you're aware of that symphony, and it's I could just see every planet and how it was composed, and to me that sort of writing really excited me. And talking to this person, talking to that person, this mentor, and then before you know it, I'm at a school learning how to do it professionally.
For people like myself who, in this aspect, I suppose, of both the genre and just film and that medium in general, who wouldn't know, is there a huge difference in, obviously, you've worked in video games, you've worked in TV, you've worked in film, that are all kind of, I guess, adjacent to each other. I find a lot of people who like video games also like movies or like TV shows or whatever.
Yeah.
For you professionally, is there a huge difference? Obviously, I know between each project, it's going to be probably wildly different, but as regards the process of writing music or scoring a movie versus music for a video game or for a TV show?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one that stands out that is probably vastly different than the other two would be writing for TV. The schedules are much more compressed, so you don't have as much going back and forth with the director. So with films and video games, you kind of have a long runway, and you really have a chance to flesh out the themes, or go down the wrong road sometimes. You're not everything that you write is always perfect every single time it comes out. So you have a way of by learning sometimes the wrong way to do things, you find the path to the right. So video games and movies to me are much more similar than TV scoring.
Initially, when you started that sentence, I was like, oh yeah, of course, movies and TVs are going to be the same, and video games is going to be the odd one out, which it's kind of fascinating to hear that it's actually not that way.
Yeah, for me anyway. I can't speak for everybody, and I will say this: old, doing Supernatural for 15 seasons and numerous other TV shows. There's not as much of that, so it may have evolved a little bit. The TV scoring is so good nowadays. I mean, there's so many amazing scores that there's probably an extra week in there, that it used to be only 5 days to write 30 minutes of music, and that's not always the easiest thing to do. So there would have to be things that you would have to do shorthand and just do it over and over again. But nowadays TV scoring is on par with films and video games, and sometimes even surpassing it for sure.
This is probably an extremely broad question, but again, for people who may not be well versed in this aspect of it, because I feel like it's probably, probably the most underplayed element of anything. Like, I've seen movies before they've been scored and things like that, and I'm like, wow, this is a completely different experience than any time I've ever watched a movie. And it was then it started to kind of set in the importance of when that soundtrack is added, that it's like, oh, okay, this is what elicits those emotions, and this is what makes me feel tense, or this is what makes me feel a certain way. But for you,
Right.
when let's say, for example, Final Destination Bloodlines, when that comes across your desk as like, this is a potential project, would you like to work on it? How does the process from, I guess, signing on the dotted line to do the project to actually starting like day one, where do you have to try and dive back into the franchise? Do you reference some of the previous, scores? How does that work for you?
Well, for on this project specifically, I saw that Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein were attached to the movie. I didn't know they were making a movie, and so I saw and Final Destination at the same time. I was very excited because I'm a big fan of the franchise. So I reached out to them and offered my services and saw, are you still looking for composers? Like, yeah, we just started. We're gonna look for a composer. I said, well, I think that I can write you an amazing theme. Would you please let me write you a theme? And if you like it, then great. If you don't, then no harm, no foul, sort of thing. So I tried out for the movie before I even signed on the dotted line, and they everyone at New Line Cinema and the producers sort of fell in love with the theme that I wrote just from the get-go. So in that regards, I was very lucky that I kind of already had the sound that everyone was looking for on the movie before they even shot the film. So I was very fortunate that way.
Is that something that happens often where, like, I hear a lot of times from maybe writers or directors and stuff, they'll try and have like maybe a little proof of concepts of different things, or they might come up with treatments for films. Is that something that in your field happens often, where like maybe you might come up with something beforehand and be like, hey, take a listen to this, what do you think? Have I lost you?
It can happen that way for sure. It depends on whether or not you have the sound that they're looking for. On this instance, I felt very confident. Me being a fan of Final Destination, me already working with Zach and Adam before, and I had an inkling of what they were going to go for this project. So I felt like the best way to do it was to show them rather than talk about it, or just say, yeah, I know I could do the best job on this project, so hire me. I said, well, let me show you instead, and it it really worked out. And there's other projects that I've been called for that I'm thinking my music, I've done a lot of what you're looking for, and all my tracks are already there, and you send it and then you don't get a call back. So it's amazing how that you can be doing it and I've been doing it for 30 years, and I've written so much music over the years, but every project has their own unique wrinkle. So more and more I'm trying to, if possible, if I can write, I feel confident that if I can write some, that the producers will listen to it and then they'll like it.
Having such a long and expansive career, and I was thinking about this earlier. Does it get, as the years go on, does it get increasingly more difficult to have those fresh sounds, constantly be able to create things from scratch? Does it make it easier when you are creating a new sound within an existing IP or franchise versus everything has to be completely original?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, this project specifically was tricky because I'm a big fan of Shirley Walker's original Final Destination theme. So, and it worked perfectly. So I knew they were going to look for a new theme. So I, wrote something that I felt like would sort of fit with her style and fit with the music that's already been in the franchise for the last 5 movies. And it worked out really well because the filmmakers decided that we wanted to use her theme to represent Bloodworth in the movie. And so I had an instance, a couple cues where I was playing her theme and my theme sort of as a suite, kind of going back and forth, handing the notes off to each other. And it worked really well. And I was so blessed to be able to use her theme for this movie.
Considering the success that this movie has had in the last week or two globally, I don't know if I'm misquoting her, but I want to say it's had the biggest box office opening. Is it safe to say that we'll probably see more Final Destinations? And if so, is that something that you would be interested in coming back to?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do it. I'll take the second question first. Everybody who worked on this project, from the producers, Craig Perry and Sheila Taylor, to the directors who I've mentioned, to the heads of the studio, they have been brilliant on the project. Everyone was all focused on the same task, and that was making a great movie and bringing this franchise back to life. So for me, it was a dream to work on, and if number 7 they decide to make, I would be very interested in doing it, of course. And I don't know anything behind the scenes for sure. I did, let me see, today's Tuesday. Yesterday, I know there was talks of possibly meetings, but because of the global, clamoring for the movie, so we feel like maybe there's something there. And if you've watched the movie, I don't know if you've watched it, but this puts a pretty good bookend to the prior 5 movies, and it really wraps up the story. So there is a universe where we can just start from scratch and just start another story about this. And death has wicked ways, and I think we should give the people what they want.
Would that be exciting for you in your role, in the sense of maybe if we kind of start a new storyline within maybe a similar universe or whatever it might be, that you can go completely wherever you like, creatively?
Oh, absolutely. You love to have those abilities. There's times in the score that you're always writing to picture, and you have these great ideas, but the picture is only, say, a minute and a half. The piece of music that you wrote was 3 minutes, that that it could extend and do variations and all this beautiful stuff. But if it's not on the screen, you can't write it. So I'm really happy with it's on my soundtrack. The first track on the soundtrack, it's called Bloodlines. And that was the last piece of music I wrote. At the very end, we had this great end titles sequence. In the prior movies, they did the main titles in the beginning of the movie, and in this movie, they decided to do it at the end. So I had my one chance to really shine and put the main theme, how I really wanted it to play out, and the variations and things. And I wasn't beholden to the video so much at that point. So to me, if you can listen to the soundtrack, that's my favorite piece. And that was the one time that I got to write exactly what I wanted to write, for the movie.
I know obviously we're focusing on this because it's current right now, but I guess this would apply to any experience you've had with this. What is it like when you actually finally get to, I would imagine maybe in a theater, it's probably even better, when you get the chance to sit down in a room full of people who are excited for this, and you get to see it for the first time, in that experience as it was intended?
Yeah, it's great. It's always a treat when you can do it, because you think you've seen it on your small screen and you've written the music, and then when you see it getting larger and larger, and having the audience respond to different parts that you didn't maybe respond to, and it's really gratifying. And this movie for me, I thought was so interesting. We call it a horror movie, and it is a horror movie, but at the same time, it's so funny, and the audience really is cracking up. It's like, is it a horror movie with comedy, or is it a comedy movie with horror? I don't know. I think you should go see it and decide if you haven't thought about it. But it's it's a good time, and every time I've seen it, there's just new things that pop off the screen.
When you score a movie, do you get final say, in the sense of, obviously you're the professional, and you've put it together the way you feel is best suited? Is that a lock then, musically, or does that go through another process maybe, and then when you get to see the final product, things could have changed again?
I wouldn't say a composer would ever get their final say. It's a if there's something that I really want to fight for, I will, and I will suggest it in many different ways. But I have to be careful of the producers and directors, and with the studio film, there's so many voices, and you want to have everybody's voices heard. So what I will do in that instance, if there is a difference of opinion, and on this movie, there are two directors, so they could sometimes have differences that they want to have. So I will write the cue both ways if it comes to it. I can't do it for the whole movie, but if there are certain cues that we are just diametrically opposed to it, I'll write it in two ways, and then let's talk about it, and let's discuss the best way. Because it is a collaboration between the filmmakers and the composer. And a lot of times, and especially when I was a young composer, I had the hubris that I knew everything I wrote was perfect, and all that sort of stuff. And I've had the luxury of time where many times the director's right, and they come up with these ideas, and it's made my music better. So I am much more open to criticism, positively or negatively, to make the movie better, or make the music better, because inevitably it makes the movie better as well.
Would you say in every aspect of the creative field, when it comes to stuff like this, is that like one of the key takeaways that people should have, is like that ability to be able to hear others' opinions or suggestions and things like that?
Well, I think young composers for sure is be open to all different opinions, and seeing what works, as long as you have that trust with the filmmakers that we're all on the same page, and we're all trying to make the best scene, the best music, the best score, everything about it. We're just trying to do the best job possible. And if you have that trust, then you have to be open to other people's ideas, and make the change. And if it doesn't work, there's 12 notes. You can change the 12 notes to whatever you want. And if it's not making it any better, then make a compelling case and listen to them.
You've worked on a lot of I wouldn't say straight horror, but like they're horror adjacent, or they have elements of like some of those creepier aspects. Is that something, I don't want to say you're drawn to, but um is that a case of people in the genre like your work and you get contacted, or is it something that you, I don't want to say prefer, but kind of seek out more?
I wouldn't say I seek it out. It kind of just ends up that way. The people that are familiar with your work, they just go onto these projects. And what I love is my career. It seems like it's spaced out. I haven't done the math exactly, but it's spaced out between horror projects. I don't know if I would want to do 12 horror movies in the same year. I like the fact that my projects are diverse enough to where I can go from a movie like Final Destination. I can go to a movie that we're working on currently with Zach and Adam. They're doing the sequel to Freaks, and which is a movie I did with them. I can't believe it's been 5-6 years ago. It feels like it was just 2 years ago, honestly, but with COVID and everything. So I love the fact that I can go to those projects, and I'm working on another project that I can't talk about right now. That's all electronic and totally different. So um, going from project to project, and it revitalizes your composing gene of of doing it from different places. And uh, so I'm excited to do the next horror project, but I know it's going to be different than what I'm working on Final Destination for sure. So that's what I like to do.
Yeah, is that something that's key for you to not like sometimes I hear people talk about being kind of pigeonholed into and not just a composer, but I've seen
Yeah,
directors that have a couple of good horror movies or comedy movies, and then all of a sudden it's like you become like the horror guy or the comedy guy, and people seem
yeah.
to while as an audience member I might think, oh, well, that's isn't that the dream? That's great. People want you to just do that, and they're like, yeah, but creatively it doesn't do anything for me to kind of just rehash the same material over and over again.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. People in my business, in the film business especially, they like to put you in your box, and whatever you've done is who you are sometimes, and it's not always the case. I met the directors on a Disney show called Mech X4, and it was a kid's story about a giant robot and super cool, and all this heroic music and whatever, and they were brilliant at that, and they did a great job of that. Now I don't know how you make the case of like, oh, these are the people that are going to do the Final Destination franchise, but I knew working with these guys that they're brilliant and they were going to do an amazing job. And so when I did see that they were attached to it, uh, I knew that, I'm sure people were like, who are these guys? And I'm like, I know who these guys are, and they're going to do a fantastic job. And I hate to say I was right, but I was right. I mean, they really, hit it out of the park. And, you know, I, we're just so tickled with it. So yes, to go back to your question, that it's easy to get pigeonholed, and that's something that I've been lucky enough to avoid, because I do bounce from project to project to project and different things, because I love all aspects of, I love TV, I love films, I love video games, and I love to tell compelling stories, and wherever that path will lead me is where I want to go.
I know this question will it's probably like asking somebody, to choose their favorite kid or something like that. But do you have any standout scores that, is in your, I don't know, your rotation or something that you would say like, those stick out to me as like something that sits atop your list?
So, are you asking the scores from other people, or my scores?
Yeah, I don't want to ask about your own work because I know that's kind of like a little bit
Okay.
but from other people's.
Yeah. Yeah, from other people. Someone asked me that the other day, and I liked Planet of the Apes from Jerry Goldsmith. I loved how that was just a kind of a crazy score, a story that's never been told. And I loved his use of, kind of these interesting instruments. I mean, John Williams, you can just pretty much most of his scores, but Munich would be a score that isn't always talked about, that he did, that I thought was brilliant. I love James Newton Howard. I love his scores. Signs is one of my favorite scores that he's done. But Lady in the Water, another great one. Snow White, I mean, it was amazing. So, I mean, literally, I could go on. Shawshank Redemption, I love that score. I mean, there's so much amazing music out there.
Is that something that you do? I know obviously as a listener it's one thing, but then I suppose to tie it into your career and your creative aspect, do you listen to a lot of music and a lot of scores, and do you I don't know. I feel like anybody in the creative endeavor that's been successful, they're always quite interested in experimentation with different things and trying different things, and just to see, like, maybe let me try this. Will that work? Or that sounds a bit different, or I've never heard it done that way. Is that something that you like to do?
Absolutely. Well, I like to do both. I do like to listen to scores, and I love to see how people, other people, are figuring out solving the problem that I'm doing as well. But if given an opportunity, I think trying to come up with something that's totally, you've never heard it before. I always like to do that if possible, but it's not, it just takes the right combination of things. It takes filmmakers that trust you. It takes a studio in all these things that will add up, and it's very difficult because they have their opinions of what they want. So, kind of going back to what I did for this movie, my demo wasn't doing anything that the other movies had done before, and I just sort of guessed what I thought the filmmakers might like, and what I wanted to hear as a fan for Final Destination, and I did it right. So the sound wasn't experimental, but it was a new theme, and so the melody was something that was going to carry the franchise, at least this movie. Hopefully, other movies as well. Lord willing, that would be great if it did that as well.
Is it difficult for you? Because I feel like, and I said this at the start, for a lot of people, I think they don't realize the importance of the music. I think as your average, cinema goer or quote unquote movie lover, a lot of people actually don't realize. And I would say up until a few years back, I probably didn't until I had the chance to watch certain projects before they had any music or anything. And I was like, wow, this is like a very weird, strange experience. And then realizing that, okay, while I'm seeing whatever I'm seeing on screen, without that score, I'm probably not feeling the emotions, good or bad, at all, really. I'm not really connecting with anything. Is it bittersweet for you to know that a lot of what you're doing is helping to elicit those reactions from the audience, but then also maybe a lot of people not even realizing that that's what's helping to do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been definitely times where you get overlooked with on projects, and people say, "Oh, I liked the soundtrack," and then what they do is they describe the soundtrack is all the songs that played through it, and that's very standard. So they're not really talking about the underscore. They're talking about the songs. Oh, I loved how Spirit in the Sky came in or whatever like that, but they're not talking about the evocative film music that's underneath all that. That's really driving the movie. So I've kind of learned that, or one of the things other composers that we all talk about, if there is a review and they talk about music, a lot of times it's not good. Like if they mention the music, generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, it's they say something bad about it. And you're right, 100%. We are overlooked as composers, but say for this movie, Final Destination, there's a scene where Tony Todd, kind of says his farewells, and it's his last scene as an actor, because he perished, and we knew that he was going to die very, very soon. And he died between me writing that scene and when I recorded it. So there was, sort of this emotional moment that we all had. And when people talk about the movie and when I read the reviews, people talk about, oh, this is, an incredibly moving scene, and I know what they're saying is the music is perfect. They're not saying that, but in between, if you read in between the lines, that I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And I can take I get a gold star for that one. That, I did what I was supposed to do. So I feel very, I feel blessed, and I'm supposed to make them feel things. So it's hard for people that, unless you have that experience like you did when seeing a movie without the music beforehand, without any music on it, then you don't know any better. And it's almost just like, taking away the sound effects of a waterfall or an ocean. And then if it wasn't there, it would be strange. And so having that experience, I think, really helped you identify that music is important, and it's very important. And the people on my side of it, the filmmakers, they all know that, and they music is right at the top of their list of having it, getting it just right. And so I'm grateful that they know the power of music. And over time, I'm sure people will learn. You're going to get some people that will never understand it, and that's fine too.
Would you say for for aspiring composers, is that a takeaway not to take that to heart? And also, is there anything, I know it's quite a generic and a broad question, but a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who maybe loves uh loves music, loves the, I don't want to say the idea, but they feel like that this is their creative outlet, and it's something they want to do and follow. Like, what would you say to somebody now who's trying to pursue that passion?
Is study your craft and really listen to as many scores, listen to as much classical music, listen to as much music, period. You can take inspiration from anything that you listen to. What would it sound like if you had a jazz sound and a hip hop beat and a orchestra score? I don't know, but I mean, these are things that you can try, and kind of create your own sound, because there's nothing but amazing music made throughout the whole world, every country, every every place in the world. So you can take inspiration from anything, and you can take it from nature too. You can nature has its own beautiful music, and some of it is silence. Silence is music in its inverse way, and sometimes that's an important thing too to add in your music. So there's so many different things that you can be inspired to, inspired by. So I would just be open to just about anything.
I have just one or two more kind of quick fire questions before I let you go. But you mentioned earlier before the show about your Irish roots and things like that, and just when you tied into, you said about different types of music, different styles of music. Is that something you do? Like, let's say, for example, when you visit back here in Ireland, is it something where, like, that creative brain is always kind of there? I don't know, maybe you're in a pub or you're somewhere and you hear somebody play music. Is that something that kind of never really shuts off that creative mind of being like, oh, that's interesting, I could maybe do something with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's the blessing and the curse, I would say, and the same thing is that whenever I'm watching a movie, I can't turn it off. I'm always thinking about the music, and so no matter if I'm at a pub, maybe at a pub, I'm not, my brain isn't working
Yeah.
as much, but I'm always thinking about it. And I had a teacher at one point, and he had, I think it's called collective, I forget what it was called exactly, but he had a theory of collective. It had something to do with your genes, that like it's in my genes to write sort of Irish music or that sort of stuff. I wrote the first piece I wrote for the school I went to, which is USC. I wrote it in 3/4, so it kind of had this sort of like Irishy feel to it. And he said, "You're Irish, right?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, that's why you're writing it this way. It's because it's your collective memory." And I don't know. I do find I've written a lot of stuff in 6/8 and 3/4, the time signatures of the Ireland, people, and I love it. And yes, there have been times I've been looking forward to trying, like, gosh, how do I get attached to some of these projects? I would love, 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 love to write a whole score in that style.
It's yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it was something that popped into my head when you mentioned it earlier. And to follow on from that, throughout your career, like you said, it's been quite a broad career, from video games and comedy and horror and kids stuff, and there's all these different, and a lot of times I think it's hard for any sort of creative to be able to, I don't know, not allow themselves to get pushed into like, oh well, you've done some horror stuff and we really like that, so we just want that over and over again. Or you've done some good comedy stuff, we just want that over and over again. um and with you being able to kind of be so broad, um, would you say that, now looking back, having such a successful career, and then, I feel like a lot of creatives say this about it's very hard to switch off that creative brain. Did you ever struggle, in your everyday life with that? I find like even myself at a way minuscule, tiny level, like at times maybe I'm not as present as I should be, or I get kind of overwhelmed with if I have a project or if there's something that has a deadline, I kind of get a little bit consumed by it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. If I'm with my wife and we're watching a movie and I don't like the music at all, then I don't want to watch it anymore. I want to, get away. So there is a Venn diagram with the movies and the really good music, and those are the things that I end up watching a lot of. And if there is a score, and thankfully there's not too many of these projects I really don't agree with, that I think the music is no good. Um, but there have been instances where, and I don't remember what it was. It was in the '90s where they had not A Knight's Tale or something like that, but they were back in medieval times and they used rock and roll music, and I'm just like, this is just not for me. It is not. I get it. You're trying to juxtapose a few different styles and genres together, but I couldn't get into it. So I don't think I ever watched the end of the film. It may be brilliant. It may have been perfect, but I just couldn't stomach it. And even now that there are times that throughout the years, and I've watched a lot of different scores try, different music elements where they would have like orchestra and rock band together or something like that. And I have a lot of like rules of, it only works if you do it this way. But it doesn't work when that person did it that way. There's things that just like, they're just like chalkboard, nails on a chalkboard sort of thing like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely, I can't stand some of the things that happen sometimes. And again, gratefully, it's not that often.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
before I let you go, then, just a couple of, I guess, super quick questions. Where can people best support you, follow you, or kind of keep an eye on what might be coming next? Because I know sometimes it's kind of hard to just outright ask the question, well, talk about what you're working on right now, because a lot of times, it can be under wraps and people can't say much. But, if somebody wants to follow your
Right.
journey, or see maybe what's coming next when you announce it, where's the best place for people to go?
I hate to admit it, but probably Twitter and social media is the best outlet for it. I try to keep my website up to date, but it is, when you're behind and so many other projects and you've got to write music, those are the things that fall by the wayside quickly. So I know we have Final Destination coming out. We have Freaks is going to probably come out early next year. I think it's called, the working title is Freaks Underground. I have a video game project that will be coming out in the fall. I can't tell you anything about it. And that's the unfortunate part of it, is literally you can't say a thing until the day it shows up on consoles. And then finally, like, you don't really have a chance to let everyone know, hey, please look at this project that's coming my way, coming your way. Please, look out for it. With films, they do a much better job, in my opinion, of, giving you a few months ahead of time. And yeah, I can't share a score with you. I can't share some things for you, but I can tell you at least that I'm working on it. So I would say stay tuned on socials. There's some pretty cool things coming up the end of this year and the beginning of next.
For everybody listening, whether you're watching this on YouTube, Rumble, or listening on any podcast platform, the links will be down below in the description, so it'll be super easy to find for Tim's social medias and stuff like that. Final question I have before I let you go today is, why music? Why composing? And what does it mean to you? I know, we've kind of talked a little bit about the importance of it to the audience, to the projects, to the listener, whether they're aware of it or not. But I suppose to flip that, what does it mean to you when you're creating these projects? How does it make you feel? Or what is it that constantly has drawn you back over the last, 25, 30 years?
Well, I think I kind of discussed, it's sort of a blessing and a curse that I have music always going through my head, and being a composer was the only way that I could let it out a little bit. And it just is something. It feels very natural, and I feel very blessed to have that ability to do it. But I don't want it to sound like everything I'm thinking in my head is perfect and it's beautiful, and everything I write is amazing. It takes a lot of work and craft, part of it. And there's some times where I'm having a bad day and I write terrible music. And there's some days that I am having a great day and I write amazing music. And you just kind of, through the law of averages, that you kind of do it, and it all kind of works out evenly. But a lot of times what I'll do is if I'm writing bad music, I'll step away from it, because we talked about earlier, TV shows, you don't have a lot of time. It's the quick and the dead. And so if you're having a bad day, you're really having a bad day. I mean, there's not a lot of time to make it up. So the sooner I get away from my keyboard or wherever I'm writing at that moment and come back to it, then I will come back to it, and I will, write. I will fix that cue and write it better. And for people that are having writer's block, it's easier to revise bad material than it is for you to just stare at your screen or your piece of paper or whatever it is and just say, well, eventually I'm going to get an idea. It doesn't work that way, at least for me. It works, like you have to try the best, even if the ideas aren't coming, just write them out. And then if there's bad ideas, then that's okay. You can change that. There's plenty of ways and plenty of time to do it. Just be open to it. And then before you know it, at the end of the day, you look back, and where you started and where you finished, it was two vastly different places. And that's just being able, to have the craft and working hard at it, because this is hard work. And I put a lot of effort, to making this sound as good as possible. And some cues in this movie came very easily, and some cues took more time, and that's fine. And that's all part of the creative process. And I just, for anybody that wants to do it, and I think this is true of all creative fields, is just, just work hard at it and refine it and slowly chip away at it. And before you know it, you're going to have an amazing product. I guarantee it.
I love talking to people like yourself, because it's all these years later and all these projects later, and I can still, even though it's virtually we've met, I can still feel that passion, that energy. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know, maybe doing what you love, where it never truly dies out. But I always find that when I talk to people like yourself, there's always an energy given off that I feel like I can go away and I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't feel as bad about that thing now. And I just have to keep, I just maybe put that away and work on this, or then I'll take this back out for something different. I think it's just really good for people to hear, and it's really nice, because a lot of times people can tie that maybe into their own creative outlet. It may not be music, it may be writing, it may be directing, it may be photography, whatever it might be. And I've always had people message, or message on Instagram or places like that and say, I listened to X, Y, and Z, and I previously hadn't heard of them or didn't know they were involved in this or that, and then they come out like, oh, they said something in particular that really stuck with me, and now I feel, I don't know, revitalized. Yeah.
Well, I think right now, there's always a tendency in any generation to talk about, the worst parts of our society and what we need to change and things like that. But take a step back and look at it. We're in the golden age of creativity. There's so many things that need creative voices, from artwork to photography. Again, we can name them all. So, just go with your passion. What makes you happy? What makes you feel like how I feel working on the Final Destination Bloodlines. I didn't work a day in the last 2 years when I was working on it, because it was just amazing. Everyone working on it was just like it was a vacation in a lot of ways, because it was brilliant. And there's a lot of ability to do that now, from YouTube channels to Twitter. I mean, just a million things. Let your creativity flow out of you, and just share with it to the world. You have a great opportunity right now that's never happened before in the history of humankind. So little too deep, I guess, or a little too schmaltzy, but that's how I feel. I think it's a great time to be a creator.
I love that. I love that, and I know the audience love that as well. They love to hear the real side of it. I think a lot of times, it's very glitz and glam and like, oh, it's 1 in a million, nobody can make it. And I think it's nice for people because whatever that level may be, so long as you're happy, you're enjoying it. You don't have to be on, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, or you don't have to go to.
It doesn't have to be, yeah. Don't kill yourself with perfection. You start with imperfection. Michelangelo just, didn't do David right out of the bat. He had to work at his craft. And nowadays, everyone is open to having all sorts of creative input on all this sort of stuff. So just, find something that you really like doing and try your best at it. And there's nothing bad that can happen from that.
Tim, it's been a pleasure. I've just followed you on Instagram, so everybody listening needs to do that as well. The links are down below in the description wherever you're listening or watching this on. So you guys better go and follow him also on Instagram and Twitter. I would love to stay in touch. I would love to revisit this again when you can talk about some more of your other projects, maybe later in the year or into next year. And yeah, I wish you all the best. The movie was fantastic. The score was fantastic. And I can't wait to see what's next.
Aaron, I can't appreciate you enough. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.